Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is Jonas Reports for the 16th of May. And we got that little bit of lift that we were talking about right as we were at the 50%. We still came back down, which expressed weakness from just the continued slide in the red DOC and as well as falling shakeout. Just now have the yellow -9, which is above the blue, which is at -10 right there. You can see it. It's a little bit dark on that screen. But what that's really representing to us is that we were starting to get this turnaround. We were talking about this orange needs to come down and actually dip below to generate that new buy configuration. But the cross of steel above cyan was one of the first markers we were looking for. And that took place as well. So we're seeing that rolling back up. We never dipped below the red line, so we were never in what we would consider a hyper oversold or anything like that. This was just a solid retrace that filled in, well, all the positive extremes going back to here, as well as the dip below the red line didn't quite get its fill. That's all the way back over here. And we would have had to have dropped down into the 27 range. That would have been a much more significant dip. I mean, we had it all the way to the 62.35 range right here as potentials. Not over yet because you still aren't into a full buy signal. This would be the closest thing we've had, though, to a bullish stint at all. And you can see a lot of shorts completely withdrew from this setup. So most of any lifting is going to be just new buyers because we saw a lot of the short covering right here in this rise right to this point. And identical. And this is actually a little bit more bullish from the NASDAQ standpoint because you can see you already have the orange underneath with the cross, as well as the cross of steel. That's everything you would need that happened the other day to start out right now. And the only thing I would say that you're missing from that would be having that yellow crossing above magenta. But this is where you look into intraday, and you can see if you get that crossover. When it happens, you're able to jump on it. And again, nothing from the euro because look at that. There's just no incentive whatsoever, and there's been no reset of the steel coming below red and trying to generate that pop move, which is why we knew this was going to be a sustained flat to down period. It becomes very clear that way. And gold kind of just stuck in that zone after creating a little dip because we had the negative rejection here with the cyan. Now the potential of, here having the steel cross below is going to need to come back above again to generate a new one. But it's holding its own. I mean, it's nothing dire coming off of that jump. So from an intraday standpoint, this is the Diokon Ping 2, and so it could see that clear rise, the DOC spread right at that 0 point. And this become very powerful from a downside, something we talk about a lot. When you get that rollover that happens right at the 0 within a DOC spread configuration, yes, you could have attacked this one earlier when it first happened because you're not above the plus 15 or anything like that with the magenta. You do have rising gold, and you theoretically would be a little bit more concerned about that plateauing. And that's the reason it doesn't turn red until over here, because it really literally waits for that plateauing of the gold before it shifts. But even from that point, the drop down, fantastic. And then it recognized that deep red, where you have the crossover, where you have at least 2.25 spread differential between the gold and magenta line, while still being below the -13.5, and it liked it from here. It produced the reset, gave additional buy signals all the way up at the 23, but you can see from that coloring standpoint, it took that all the way to the peaks. And again, at this particular point, really wasn't paying too much worry about dips within this higher rise. It was this secondary one where we started getting very close to being under -15, the positive 15 right there with magenta. So you kind of see, but then by the second peak, getting up to the highs and being below, that was the opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to ride this one for a little bit further. It took a little while because even though it dipped down to the 50, it held up for a little bit before dropping all the way back down and filling in. And this was just, well, some of the positive extremes that still remain would be, those were all filled. Look at the ones that were right over here within this pop-up right there. That's back at the 28.33. So you have those, but these other ones that were in between range We're all filled back in by the little postmark dip. Expand this down to be. So very clean from that standpoint. I don't think there was any objections to any of that. We ended up with the new reset here on rising, and so produced a new buy there. This one happened to be great by the 50%, but we had such a squeeze of the Morganacci lines that it became very tight. You know, sort of like almost the equivalent of a Bollinger effect right here. You can see it became super narrow, and then boom, we expand and make a new opening into it, and right at the 28.45 was previous algo level. Nothing's changed. It almost blends perfectly with the 23% line, and that's what you'll find. Algos tend to do that, and that's why we leave some of these on there that have been a while. So nothing out of the ordinary with any of that. I think it's all been pretty clean action, so all good, and we'll just keep following any unique items and continue to make adjustments to the algos so that we're staying with this really very effective market since the beginning of the year. It's been spot on with exactly what we wanted, and we were really looking for that added volatility to start May. And well, you know, they say sell in May and go away. Some people still believe in that, and I think they might be incorrect, but that's a different issue. As always, the trade well. We'll talk again later.